Right then, back in action. It's another Thursday night game for Manchester United, and this time it's Brighton. Out for revenge for the FA Cup semi-final? Yep, probably. A win against Brighton would be a massive, massive step forward for United to be able to book that top four place. I think I saw, I think it was Opta analysts give the probabilities of it being United and Newcastle that finish third and fourth or qualify for the Champions League, and it was like 90 and 93%, something in that sort of ballpark. So makes sense. United still got to get the job done, but I think there's a potential banana skin for us in this game against Brighton. Not least because they absolutely bitch-slapped Wolves 6-0, whereas obviously we scraped past Aston Villa 1-0. Brighton have been aiming for the European spots. They've got something to play for here. Not just pride, not just revenge for the FA Cup, but to be capping off a good season and find themselves with European football. And I think they've got a real good chance in doing that. Brighton are unbeaten in their last four at the AMEX. Obviously, we lost 4-0 there last season. They beat us at Old Trafford on the opening day of the season. So going there now, you're like, not looking good, is it, for us? Pascal Gross has scored 6 Premier League goals against United, more than he has against any other opponent, so that's something that we're going to have to be watching out for. And since Brighton's first Premier League campaign in 17-18, only Mo Salah has scored more against United than Gross has, so that's something we've absolutely got to look out for. Now, United have won just one of our last 13 away games against side in the top half of the table. There's 9 losses and 3 draws in that. It's horrendous. And the last one that we did win was Fulham back in November. We failed to keep a clean sheet in any of the last 13 away games against top half opposition since we beat Spurs all the way back in 2021. This, honestly, if we pull something off here, I'll be shocked. How do they play? Fucking good is how they play. We know De Zerbi's incorporated this really distinct style which sort of focuses on playing out in a really, really unique way that looks to try and set traps. And we pretty much nailed exactly how it was going to play in the recent semi-final preview. And I don't expect there to be much different to that. Very rigid in the 4-2-3-1 sort of lineup. And it's a 2-4-4, the shape that they sort of build up in. A little bit of tactical innovation as it sees Pascal Gross shift inside as an inverted fullback. And then March comes deeper to make it a bit more of a 2-5-3. But now Veltman's fit. He might start instead of Gross on the right-back area, and he doesn't really have the same kind of ability to invert. But that 2-4-4 is probably still going to hold true, and that quartet of sort of centre-halves and central midfielders in close proximity to each other helps them sort of play out and tries to draw teams into pressing them. I think you have a little bit of joy if you sort of mid-block against them, but they'll pull you right in on top of them and then look to try and dink it in behind. It's a little bit risky, but when it pays off spectacularly for them because they've already got an overload on you. And I think it helps that Caicedo and McAllister are quite formidable under pressure, and I think they can seemingly pass their way out of any sort of situation. I think we saw in the FA Cup semi-final, they outran Manchester United's midfield. And United's midfield, that Bruno, Casemiro and Eriksen midfield, 20 games, 17 wins, 3 draws, no losses. It has to start again, but I'd argue you bring Sabitzer into that mix as well. United need more control than we saw in the FA Cup semi-final. I would pretty much go with what we started against Villa to try and just sort of control the centre of that pitch a little bit better, I think. Now, defensively, De Zerbi, when he first took over, the pressing principles were a little bit chaotic. That 3-4-2-1 sort of shifted all over the place with 5-3-2, 4-4-2 to sort of accommodate players scattered all over on different lines. Wasn't much order to it. And in some ways, it was fun. In some ways, it was entertainment. In some ways, it was absolute fucking carnage. And De Zerbi's just sort of brought a lot more tactical structure and make it a bit more rigid than it is chaotic. More recently, they've typically defended in the shape that you'd expect from the starting formation. The 4-2-3-1 lends itself very, very well to a 4-4-2 sort of pressing and out of shape possession, straight out of the book of Diego Simeone. But they've got a real solid defence, and they're hard to beat. Star man for me, I think it's probably going to be Moise Caicedo. He is the real deal. He is someone that would be a fantastic player at a Champions League sort of club. Every single thing goes through him. You got to limit his influence because he can run the game from midfield for you. You've got to have a bit more combativeness in the middle of the park alongside him to go toe-to-toe with him. You can't just let him be free. And I thought in the semi-final, we got overloaded in this area in a lot of ways. So I'm going to bring in an extra body and almost go a bit of a lopsided 4-4-2 diamond with it. But I'll get into that in just a second. For United, Big Dave in net. We go with Wan-Bissaka and Delo. I'm going to sit Malacia back down, even though he had a great game last time. I go with Delo over Malacia. But it's 50-50. If it was Malacia instead of Delo, not really bothered. And it could be Malacia in this instance. I wouldn't be surprised, in all honesty, actually, if it was Malacia. But it's got to be Shaw and Lindelof. It has to be. They're playing fantastic. They kept a clean sheet. You just got to keep them going. They're playing fantastic together. And then I go with Casemiro and Eriksen as our double pivot. And then I go Sabitzer in the 10 with Bruno on the right-hand side. And then I go with Sancho and Marcus Rashford. That's the team that's going to beat this Brighton side. And the reason that we accommodate the defence to bring in Wan-Bissaka is because he pretty much won that round against Matoma. And he's going to need to do that again. Matoma's having a hell of a season, and he just was like, "No, you're coming on with me tonight." Completely nullified him. He's only been dribbled past once this season. Matoma's going to dribble you. He's going to run you. And when Brighton do get into the area, which they do often, you need the timing of his challenges. It's going to be vital. He was flawless against them last time. And he could be right 9 times out of 10. But Matoma gets the better of him just once, could be absolutely decisive. I only see there being 1 goal in this game. And how do you beat them? It's midfield superiority. McAllister and Caicedo are as good as it gets. That's where they're strongest. United, for a minute, have actually got a strong midfield, but I think you need all of them, and that would be Sabitzer, Bruno, Eriksen, and Casemiro. You can dominate the ball. They've got 2, let's have 4. It's at the AMEX, so you can't allow them to get up any head of steam. You've got to quieten the crowd. You've got to be wary of the overloads. And I think the midfield battle is where this is won and lost. And then on the transition, Brighton have periods of dictating possession, as they've shown at Wembley. They had 61% possession. And this isn't like playing a mid or lower team that are a bit of fodder. They can hold the ball really well. They can hold the ball fantastically well. And they can keep hold of it and not let you see it. So I'd expect United to be a bit more transitional, and that means you've got to find Marcus Rashford in space because they are a high line, and that is going to be the out ball for you. And it's really important that the distribution is quality as it's coming through the thirds. It'll be slick from them, which means as soon as you get it, you're going to have to be quick because you'll exploit the spaces. De Zerbi's brought organisation and structure to the tactics where Potter quite like them being a bit more expansiveness. They're tougher than they were under Potter. Potter's team give you a chance, whereas I think De Zerbi shuts it down a little bit, and that's what makes them as difficult as they are to beat. Like I said, 1 goal is going to be all that's in this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And are you confident going in this? Because I'm really not. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, 5-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.